So before we start, I want to do one thing that I always do whenever I'm speaking in a public place. I'd like to, I don't know if we can raise the house lights, but I'd really like to know. I'd like to take a vote, and this might make some of you uncomfortable. If I'm going to ask you for a show of hands. If you feel uncomfortable voting in front of your seatmates and colleagues, just close your eyes. You'll feel a lot more comfortable. How many people in the room voted for Barack Obama in 2008? Okay. Now,
thank you. Good night.
Now,
I'm so lonely. I'm always lonely these days.
Now, how many people voted for John McCain? Okay, so first of all, by the standards of Manhattan and the Upper East Side in particular, this is a very ideologically diverse audience.
Yes.
And secondly, all of you who voted for John McCain, I know the security people in the back, if you need some help getting out later, I can fix that for you. So I want to start, we're going to talk about politics tonight, and we are really heading right into the presidential election in the next Iowa caucuses are now just a few weeks away. But before we talk in a relatively granular way about the election, I want to kind of set the stage for that by talking about the country, because the country is obviously pretty important to the election. Tom, you travel more than anybody I know, maybe, and you've just written a book, happily, about this very subject. So, it seems to me the country is in a different place than it's really ever been maybe in our lifetimes in terms of its level of anxiety, its fear about the future, its lack of faith in a lot of big institutions, its worry that for the first time ever that we're not going to be able to provide a better future for our children and grandchildren than our parents and grandparents did. Talk about, in the context of your book and in the context of the election, where is the country right now?
The country is walled off from Washington. It really has very little patience for what's going on in what we think of as the traditional way of nominating a candidate, and certainly what's going on within the Beltway. This is not a recent phenomenon. It's been going on from shortly after President Obama took office, beginning sometime in mid-2009. It began going across the country on Highway 50. And what I discovered very quickly is that people were giving up on the institutions of governance as we have traditionally known them. And what they were doing is just worrying about their Main Street and about their business and about their community and about their family. And they were finding ways to work together. That remains true today. And the essential question that I had not heard before, and I've been doing this for 50 years next summer, is the one that you raised at the back end of that preamble, and that is, for the first time in my professional and personal life, people are coming up to me and saying, I just don't think my children are going to have the life that I've had. That's always been a central part of the American dream, and that's caused real anxiety, not just among parents, but among grandparents as well. I just finished a 19-city tour of America and went everywhere, southeast, northeast, midwest, far west, northwest, and I saw almost no passion for any of the candidates running, Democrats or Republicans. Nobody coming up to me and saying, I was with Obama 4 years ago, I'm going to be with him again. No one's saying that. No one's saying on the Republican side, Newt's my guy, I knew the country would discover him, or stay with Mitt Romney, he's going to get there. Once he figures out who he is, he's going to get there. But there was, that's so striking to me, because at this stage, people begin to kind of pick their team and begin to line up and put on the team jersey.
Right.
That's not going on.
And a lot of it has to do with the fact that, and you see it on our show, I mean, Washington is so disconnected from America because they're still talking like it's 1994. Of course, we have Newt Gingrich and other Republicans that when you ask them, how are you going to get America back to work? They'll say, well, we need less taxes, less spending, less regulations, the same things that I was saying in '94 to get elected. And then Barack Obama yesterday was talking about trickle-down economics. Taking it back tonight, I'm like, are you serious? Is this 1981? Is this 1982? And neither side, and maybe it's because they don't have an answer, are telling the truth about what's happening with America right now. You go back to 1973, Jeffrey Sachs talks about this in his new book, that the average wage for Americans has been going down every year since 1973. I remember my parents driving me around in upstate New York when we lived up there in 76, 77. Some of the steel plants were closing down in the Northeast at that time, and they were already talking. You were already hearing about America losing its competitive advantage. We have politicians talking about how we're exporting jobs to China and India and Mexico and all of these other countries. The fact of the matter is, if America was just as productive today as it was in 1993, 20 more million people would be working in manufacturing today in America. It's a productivity problem. So it's much easier to cling to ideologies of the past than talk about where we are today and what we need to do moving forward. Republicans won't talk about the debt crisis in a meaningful way. They won't talk about expanding the base of the tax-paying base. And Democrats won't talk about entitlement programs. And that's why Washington, D.C. is irrelevant to the challenges that we face as a country right now.